back to the Not Carrie Bradshaw YouTube channel. In this video, I'm recapping episode 6 of First Wives Club. I continue to love this show. It's so entertaining and so well styled and so well written. Anywho, let's jump right in. Hazel continues to be an entitled and insufferable house guest. It's like she has no self-awareness. And I guess this is just a part of her being like a, an R&B diva, I suppose. But it's just like somebody's letting you live in their house rent-free. The least you could do is like help out a bit. She has no concept of how to do that because she's been rich and famous for too long. And I guess is still unaware of the fact that she is no longer rich, kind of not famous. Really frustrated me this episode. Bree is having a really hard time keeping everything together between the separation and the kids and her job. She has, kind of let her aesthetic upkeep slip. The house is in disarray. They're out of toilet tissue. She had to use her good towel, child, to wipe her ass. And Hazel doesn't even stick around to help her. So Bree actually ends up living out one of my worst fears, which is to run into an ex on a day where you are not together. So she runs into Gary at the supermarket where he is with his new, very fit, very well put together, younger girlfriend, Melissa. And in her shock, she intentionally, I guess, but regretfully invites Melissa to the kid's birthday party, to her daughter's birthday party, which she actually low-key forgot about. But to save face in front of Gary, she's made it out to be this big thing. Oh, it's gonna be like the party of the year, woody woody woo. So naturally, she ends up having to enlist the help of the other girls to actually make this party a success. And they tell her, like, you really have, like, kind of like let yourself go. So we gonna help you out. We gonna, get you an appointment. We gonna get you to a spa, get you a little mani-pedi, do something about this hair. And I really appreciate that Bree highlighted something that I pointed out in the first episode, which is how hard it is for single moms to move on. Whoever the parent is that has to take care, that has primary custody of the kids, I think it's harder for that person, whether they're, man or woman, for them to move on, because having kids when you have a job and you don't have that other partner there is a huge responsibility. I'm assuming that's harder on women anyway, just because women aren't given as much consideration for being single mothers. If you hear about a single mother, especially if she's Black, it's like, oh, of course. If you hear about a single dad, it's like, oh, you're raising them on your own. Double standards out the wazoo. But I can understand how hard that is. You can't even keep yourself up to, even feel confident enough to go out and date somebody else. Do you even have time for that between being a surgeon and having 2 kids, and you don't have that in-home partnership anymore? And this is starting to make her actually really question if she still wants this divorce. And so the women are encouraging her, like, talk to Gary about this. He probably feels the same way. There's no way that he's actually, really in love with this girl. So tell him how you feel, which I think is important. I think communication is always the best policy. So Hazel ain't written a damn thing for her album. And Khalil calls her, to come to the studio. Like, I want to see where you're at with things. And she hasn't written anything. And he's like, what is going on? Like, are you not taking this seriously? And Hazel really has to confront her own fear, which is that she can no longer blame her success or her failure on Derek because he's no longer a part of her life. So whether she fails or succeeds, it's going to be her fault. She has to own whatever it is that happens, and that has her kind of stuck creatively. So she doesn't even know where to begin to write a song. And I have been there and can understand, obviously not with, songwriting. I can hold note, I can do a little yang, yang, yang around the house, but I'm obviously no Jill Scott. Ari's husband, David, is being so needy. He has this big interview for BET with Mark Lamont Hill, and he wants to go over his talking points, and he doesn't know which tie to wear, even though she laid the tie out. And, it's like she's made things as simple as possible, as if he's like a child, and it still wasn't enough. And they end up, going on the interview. He forgets one of his talking points. Ari has to jump in and save him. And then it's like, oh, is there like a political, future for you? And I'm like, I can hope so. I really did think that the answers that they came up with, they were very politicky, and if they were true, they did sound good. Where David came from a lot of privilege, and he's saying that he wants to use his privilege to empower other people to have affordable housing, and that's a really big issue in real life in New York. And I'm like, damn, I hope somebody is working on that for real. I was like, let me look up my local people and see if that's something we can get. It probably is being worked on. I don't know. I'm exhausted with the political process, but that's another conversation for another day. David is draining, and he's not even servicing our girl well, but we'll get there. So the birthday party happens. Also, Bree's mother-in-law is just so ornery. She don't see it for Melissa. Melissa shows up. The baby don't see it for Melissa. Melissa's a vegan. She doesn't drink. And of course, Hazel spiked the punch at the child's birthday party, which turned out really well. Bree looked absolutely gorgeous. I'm a huge, huge fan of good outerwear. That coat, send it to me. Loved it. So Gary is actually choosing a little bit. He's a little bit flustered, don't really know what to do with himself seeing Bree like this. Sometimes all you need is just to be reminded that this is the person that you like, So, y'all know I'm pulling for them. So after the birthday party, Khalil actually sets up a little open mic night for Hazel to kind of get her groove back and to shake this creative block, and they end up getting it in, which I knew was going to happen. We all knew was going to happen, but I'm just happy for Hazel because she deserves. So after the birthday party, Gary stays to help Bree clean up. They end up going to the bouncy house and just having a good, good lighthearted fun, which leads to them, making out like two married people do. And I hope that this means that the divorce is no longer going to happen, because when Bree went to, prior to the birthday party, when she went to call Gary to let her know that she was having second thoughts, he'd actually let her know that he went ahead and got a lawyer and they could proceed with the process. So I'm hoping that this wasn't just we're tipsy off of this, spiked punch and we had a moment. I'm really hoping that this means that they're going to work out their relationship. And I want Gary and Bree to make it, man. I feel like there's hope for them. And then finally, Ari confronts David about how selfish he is. He's watching the interview that he just did. And, Ari is trying to, get physical with him and, have like an intimate moment. He's like pushing her away. She's trying to have a conversation with him about how she feels that she does so much for him and gets nothing in return. And he's not even entertaining the conversation and really like calls it stupid and just kind of brushes her off, which is one of the worst things that you can do to somebody when they're emotionally vulnerable and they're trying to have a conversation with you, for you to not even entertain the conversation. And he's like, I get up at 5 a.m. and I work so hard and da-da-da. And she's like, who do you think facilitates your ability to do that? I do everything for you and you do nothing for me. The Getcha Gotcha was when she said that he's never given her an orgasm in the entirety of their marriage. And we also saw how she, has been thinking about Wesley since whatever happened with them, when she was on this hallucinogen at the party in the previous episode. And she packed her stuff and she left. And I was like, good for you, Ari. Ari and David need to break up because David is ungrateful and Ari isn't getting anything out of this relationship. Bree and Gary can work their stuff out because there's love there. And, like I said, you can forgive an infidelity. It's one thing to have cheated and it's another thing to be a cheater in perpetuity. So, things are, changing in the love lives of our ladies. I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see what's to come. So drop down the comments. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode. Let me know if you think that Bree and Gary are going to work it out. And I will be back to recap the next episode. So be sure to subscribe and like and comment and share. And if you like what you saw today, become a patron on my Patreon and help me to continue to create free content. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.